right to our show. As always, I'm your host, Steph. I'm here with my lovely wife, Crystal.
Hi.
And thank y'all for tuning into our podcast. We talk about all things marriage and family.
Yes.
Today, we have a very special guest that I'm actually, this is one of the I'm hype episodes.
This
again.
is like one of the fun episodes that we're going to have.
This is a fun episode. I'll let you do that.
The number one Christian sexologist in the country, Brittany Broaddus-Smith.
Let's go.
I mean, in the world, but that's pretty cool.
I'm about to say, I was going to say.
I'm international, baby. But,
Yeah.
You know, humbly.
Yes.
Humbly.
You better say that.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I knew from our first conversation about other stuff that I was like, y'all are a dope couple.
Oh,
So I was
well,
like,
thank you.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would go as far as to say it don't even matter Christian or not. I would say number one, period.
Okay.
Oh, not now.
Right.
I don't know about that part yet.
I'm
but
claiming
thank
it.
you. But thank
I'm
you.
claiming
Listen, you have
Thank
the
you.
credentials. You have it
Yes.
all.
I was about to say it's not just talking. You got the letters behind your name to back it up.
Do and
So,
the debt to prove it.
yeah.
Yes.
But so let's jump right into our segment that we like to call "What in the World," where we talk about current events that make you say,
What in the world?
So one of the big things happening now is, and I feel like it is just getting like ramped up, is like prom send off,
Prom culture.
Yeah.
And it's not
And
even really new. It's been like the last.
It's been. I'll
maybe
give it like
4 or 5 years.
4 or 5
I
years.
feel like.
But it's just been like skyrocketing to a different level like every year, and it's almost like everyone is like trying to outdo
The last. Yeah.
like to the point where one of my friends is an educator, and they're sending pictures of 8th graders, and they've rented cars for 8th graders
8th grade proms?
who can't drive.
Not even
They
high
can't
school
drive.
anymore. Now 8th grade. See, now
But
we're
like they
doing too
renting
much, people.
Maseratis for 14-year-olds
Jesus.
Child.
to sit on and stand on and.
But where's
go
this
like
money
this.
coming from?
So hey, I don't know. I think that's I feel like most of the conversation you see around it is like you'll see half the people that's like, oh, well, if they got it, they could do whatever they want to do, and I'm like,
But do
that
they have
sounds. Well,
Are
hey,
they going into debt?
that's my thing is I mean, if you got it, spend it, sure. But my only thing is like they better not have a dollar owed to nobody when it's time to go to college, when it's
Right.
time to multiple degrees.
Right.
Y'all better not. I don't know how furious I would have been if I went on like an $18,000 prom send off and then graduated college and had to buy my own car or had
That's the
to figure out how to scramble to get first and last month's rent for an apartment.
Right.
I would be like, I had a good time that day. Well, Mom, you might be stupid. Like, what is going on? Like that,
I'm all for the creativity though. Like I've seen some really creative send-offs. So like,
oh no, for sure.
the most recent one, the Cinderella theme.
That
And I
was
guess
decent.
was that Philly?
Yeah, right on Lancaster
Okay.
Avenue.
Is Philly like
Oh.
the originator of I think so.
If so, I hope so,
Yeah.
because we could claim that.
Do they do this outside of Philly?
That should be a question. Well, I'll say yes, because the 8th graders, they was in DC.
Okay, so that's on a whole nother
So I think
level.
it's-
At
I
least
think
stick
it's
with high
spreading.
school.
I think it's spreading.
Yeah.
But my only retort is that I feel like black people always be like, oh, they got it, they can spend what they want. But I'm like, these are the same black people that be like, oh, well, y'all out here, you buying an $800 Gucci shirt, and Bill Gates, he pull his clothes out the trash. Like, he don't even buy clothes. Y'all not thinking right. Y'all mentality is all off. Like nonsense like that.
Right.
And y'all the same ones that want everybody to have 1,500 LLCs by the time you're 12.
Oh my God.
Like y'all can't complain about that and then be
Right.
like, oh nah, like
Right.
this is fine, spend what you want.
Right.
But I mean, granted, at the end of the day, it is like a do whatever you want.
I mean,
But
yeah. But I'm just saying, that's wild.
I was about to say, yeah.
It's funny though that we are the culture that we do the most pocket watching.
Oh,
We like
yes.
I don't see other cultures pocket
Oh, yes.
watch like we do, and there's almost this inherent thought that we don't have it, which is why everybody is in shock and awe
When
that
see
you would
this.
spend such an amount of money
Right.
on these things. But when you think about it, this is social media culture.
Mm.
We don't know if she paid anything for that because
Facts.
we knew it was going to be a viral moment. Because
Right.
she,
Yeah.
again, that was the Cinderella mom.
Yeah.
That was her
Yeah.
other baby she sent off really extravagantly
Yeah.
last year. So she has that kind of virality already.
Mm.
Those vendors could have been like, listen,
That's a good point.
it could have been a bartered experience, and
Yeah.
now
Right.
everybody's eating because, as you said, it is spreading. But I just hate that we can't just congratulate without.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, similarly, I seen, I actually know her, but it's a young lady from Philly who did this extremely extravagant marital invitation. It was almost like, it was like basically like a music box.
For
It
a
was
wedding?
glass for a wedding.
Wow.
It folded out like trifold. It was a little pieces of like little dolls of them, and it spun, and it was their song
Oh,
playing,
yeah.
and the invitation
Oh.
was engraved, and it was a placard that you could say. It was
So you got that forever then.
yeah, forever. And I know,
Shoot.
even on AliExpress, I know that was a buck to at least per. But like she was successful in her own right. She
Yeah.
married to a doctor. I think he's Nigerian, so like
Okay. Oh,
their money long.
They got
They
it. Yeah.
got
Yeah. But just because you see two,
Yeah.
beautiful chocolate people, like they're like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And we love that's a down payment on the house. They
Right.
already
Yeah.
own the
Right.
house.
Right.
We don't have to
Right.
do. I just
Right.
hate that we can't just like that's what either you like it or
Right.
you don't like it, and
Right.
if
Yeah.
you won't do it, that's cool. That's your business.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, it's just us. Like I hate that we are kind of like tear each other down, and then with social media. And
That's true.
Yeah.
and I'm not going to name the site, but the site that shall not be named on Instagram always stir up the knives.
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That room.
Yeah. Man. Like that's a whole different joy. And I'll be honest, I think the big thing that especially now, like before when it first happened, I didn't have kids.
Hmm.
And now as I see like the things getting bigger, even how people are asking each other, I'm just like,
Oh.
what is this about to look like?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because we got daughters, and I'm like, they
When
not
it's their turn.
if that is the norm, they not gonna be like, oh yeah, Dad, I'm just leaving from I'm just walking down the steps, and the family gonna be there. Those days are those
yeah, the
days are
streamers-
done.
You have to
streamers
rent out
and
a
balloons.
venue,
Yeah.
Right.
Just to send them
man.
off to another venue,
Okay. And then they
Lord.
just for somebody to stand on their dress,
Right.
to take
Man.
that picture.
right?
That sets me off so
Right.
bad. If you don't get them
Man.
filthy shoes off that dress, I'd spent $6,000 on.
Yeah, I think that's my
Mhm.
real thing of like, Jesus, please, like,
But you know what I see, and
Jesus
this is
be a scholarship,
right,
Right.
but right. But this may be a little bit too deep. I might be like going way under the sea with this, but as we also we noticed that this is the uptick in this kind of extravagance, because at first it was baby showers that were getting extravagant.
very true.
Now it's so it was marriages, weddings that were extravagant, and then it
Yeah.
became baby showers without the weddings, and then
Mhm.
now it's
Yeah.
prom. And as people are getting
Mm.
married less and less,
Mhm.
Is that what
The-
people are striving towards? Do they not think that they
that
can
is
get
ever going to
to-
happen. So
Yeah.
now, like, I don't
Wow.
even know if they may not think it's going to happen, but it's like it's not the priority anymore.
Yeah.
So the mindset to save and dream and have your wedding book
Yeah.
and all of that, like
This might be the
it's
one
not
thing.
happening. This is the thing
Mm.
because, and then if we talk about inner city Philly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it big because I don't even know if I'm going to see 2021. It's
Yeah.
a blessing that I'm
Yeah.
even reach this age. So a lot of times those
Yeah.
big celebrations, we're not just celebrating prom.
That's the accomplishment.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
Meek Meek wasn't even supposed to graduate.
Right. Little Meek.
And Ron and took her. They didn't make it. So
Right,
now mommy
yeah.
is like, listen, this is my baby. I'm finna do it big. Like, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just, and we
That's a
that
good
instant
point.
gratification. So it's just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good point.
but I mean,
It's unfortunate that that's
Yeah.
yeah.
the
As for me in my
perspective,
house,
but
I'm not
it's
spending
real.
that much money on
Man.
no. But I
Yeah.
also feel the same way about weddings. Like, give
Yeah.
me I'd rather a 2-3 week honeymoon
right.
than a multi 5-6 figure.
We learned our
celebration.
lesson.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we had 300 people
My God. Y'all
At our
know
wedding.
300 people?
back then, and that's the crazy thing is, if we were to have a wedding today, half them people probably wouldn't be there.
Ain't a probably they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah. My first wedding, when I was married, when I got married, my wedding was small. We did a wedding chapel, like a 50-person
Nice little
wedding
intimate
chapel,
joint.
very
Mhm.
small. And we was also, I mean, in the spirit of transparency, I was also 100 months pregnant. And
It's
so,
not 100 months.
100 months?
so So he proposed in May. We got married in June. And so we 50-person, thing. And then we went to Maggiano's and it was like, listen, we're going to Maggiano's. Here's the price for the family thing. If you want to come, that's what it is. We paid for the pasta and that was it. Man. Now,
listen, that's smart. At least y'all have the right mindset too.
Well, if I get married again, when I get married again, come on, Jesus.
When
I get married again, I definitely gonna want a little razzle for my dad, right? Sure. But I also have, secured my future. I'm establishing my career, and I'm doing it, in the right way. That certain stuff I'm not going to need for the pomp and circumstance of it all. Yeah. But me and Mons, we definitely finna lay up for a couple of weeks. Now, we gonna party, but we definitely finna lay up for a couple of weeks.
I was about to say,
that's what you need to do.
On the note of laying up.
Hey. Okay.
Let's get into
That's a good transition. That's a
good segue. Let's get into what we came to talk about. We talking about sex, yo.
Yes.
We talking about sex.
Before we get too far, Mom, Dad, you can turn this off. Y'all don't have to watch this. I know you don't want to. Just or watch it.
Stay and watch
but don't come say anything to me, please, about it. Okay, we ain't gotta talk about this one.
Yourself. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be a good idea.
Stay. Learn you something real quick.
Man. But yeah, you got into this career path.
This crazy field.
This crazy and I'm glad you did, because one of the things that, again, not coincidence, but I feel like it's been coming up a lot in kind of things like watching and listening to, is the idea of like redeeming things that God created, where it's like, I think obviously, and maybe you said it, where it was like it had to be good at one point for it to become perverted. And I feel like when we talk about sex culturally, honestly, today is everybody just kind of, it's almost not even valued, so to speak. And so
because it's too easily accessible.
It's so it's just like a do what you want.
You don't even need to be in a relationship.
Pleasing the flesh.
It's just something to do.
So when I'm able to like sit and like, because I think I've been to 2, but they've been to 3 of the workshops that she's had, and so it's like, but seeing that, and it's like seeing like essentially, kind of trying to like redeem that back to like, nah, this ain't like as crazy and just bust it open for everybody, like how the world like would portrayed it being like, like for real though.
Nah, that's facts. And honestly, it's like it's redeeming, and then it's also reconciling at the same time. So you have the redemption that is required in a more like existential, cultural, talking about believers like kingdom wide thing. But individually, there's a reconciliation that's needed because there's a fractured sense of self. We don't see ourselves as sexual beings. We see sex as something that we do, and we don't understand sexuality beyond the first 3 letters. We hear sexuality, we say sexuality, we mean sex. And when we say sex, we mean penis and vagina. And penetration. We're very, very prescriptive and very limited in our understanding. And to your point about people not honoring sex, now I feel like it is as disrespected as it is idolized. Because at the same time that people don't hold it in its appropriate position, people also, that's all they think about. And they all like, and believers, they rush into the altar to get married just because they have sex. Not only do you not understand scripture, because that's not what Paul meant when he said it was better to marry than marry, but also it's like we don't understand how to do community. We don't know how to engage in intergender interactions that are not sexually motivated. So we are so, and sex is, not to get too preachy, but is the sin that so easily besets so many people. And that's all is where it's all consuming. And that's the true perversion of it. That it consumes us and controls us. And that's not what God intended. It was a gift. It's a beautiful thing. He purposed it for 3 different reasons. And the enemy was like, nah, let me dangle this carrot in front of y'all. And we live a life as it relates to sex as something that we don't get to do. It's not a matter of, we look at abstinence as not like, I'm not a season where I'm not having sex. You see it as a season that I can't have sex. Thus it's the cookie in the cookie jar. And now it's the best cookie ever in the world. And we don't understand how it works for our bodies and all those things. And then when we get it, and we done, and then, you know, our central nervous system returns back to baseline after that orgasm stops. And I was like, ew, your feet stink. I was like, you don't brush your teeth? Where's your tongue scraper? Like, ew, you kiss me with that mouth?
Ew.
Yeah, right. And then, but believe it, like nothing, I think we said that at the workshop, like nothing ruins an orgasm like having to repent.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't just want to, if we put it in its proper place and leave it in this as a reverential experience, then it's one of the things that we would not cheapen. And we would not, you know, take time and just take what's given to us. And I find especially for singles, the things that we do is sneaky links and, you know, masturbation and all those things is trying to get as close to it as humanly possible. Yeah. And yet we're even continually disappointed because there's no replacement or substitute for the covenantal experience. It's always going to fall short. I don't care how good it is. Not, you know, this is a safe state.
No.
Okay. I've had some sex that was not with my husband. And it was, you know, it did what it was needed to do in the moment.
Yeah. Right.
But after it was all said and done, as bad as I feel was as good as it was. And it ruined it, you know, for me. But that's what sin does. It convinces you that what's good to you is good for you, even when it's
right.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
And that's why, like I said, I guess part of us doing like these shows, especially when I sit down and actually think about how, I guess almost like asking God, like, oh, how do you approach this? Because in my mind, I'm like, oh, sex, easy. We just going to go out there and we going to have a ball. And I feel like then when I sit down and like get quiet a little bit, like, yeah, like, that sounds good. But it was like, damn, like, nigga, you used to be like you struggled with this. And it
used to be outside.
Because like in a way where it's like, again, could talk about it in a fun way, but it's like, all right, let's I guess as Ricky always says, we gotta be vulnerable and open and stuff like that. But it's like those are the things, and it's like I wish I knew what I knew now when you out in the streets just doing anything. Because and even like I said, because some people, even though I was trying to be like, oh, like let's do better, be better. And I think part of like with having like a show like this where it's like some people be like, nigga, stuff, I know you. Like, I know you. Like, you was this, that, the third. Like, so I ain't trying to, like, hear you say, but it's like, I'm, like, in all honesty, I wish I knew better. Like, because I would have done nothing. I probably would have been married at, like, 17. but I would have done nothing just because it's like, I see the value in it now.
Yeah.
And as much as I see the value in it, and I see, like, how even when like we first got married, it's like us not being on the same page because like if I'm coming from, you figure we dated and were engaged for a short time, so it was like I'm coming from situations where it's like I just make a phone call. Like if I want to have sex, I just make a phone call.
Right.
And where I'm at this space now, where in my mind I'm like, well, we first married. It's like, well, I went to work today. I think that's deserving of sex.
Oh,
like, wow. like, because you just like,
listen, the maturity was real.
Like you going through your mind, like I did.
Some time.
Like we married, so it's allowed, and I think I did everything I'm supposed to do today. So like, why are we not?
Right.
And it's like hard to understand. Like like we still gotta it's
a
lot that goes into than just that same culture of phone call, come over, do, and then go.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I feel like it was like this is like a learn a lot type of episode.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate it. So all the workshops that you've done for like our marriage ministry group, it definitely makes me realize like growing up, because this topic was so taboo, it's like, I feel like I didn't know enough. I didn't know enough about myself. Like you said, we don't see ourselves as sexual beings. Like I didn't see myself as a sexual being. I don't know what I thought. It's just like something that I would just kind of lock away as like, in the back of your mind, you think you shouldn't be having sex before marriage. So it's not, it's a sin.
Yeah.
But you're still doing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, because I know it's a sin, I cannot in that moment think of myself as like a sexual being, because it's like, I know this isn't like right for me to think that way.
Yeah.
And because I was in that mindset and I didn't actually have anyone like educating me or really talking to me about those type of like emotions or processing that thought.
Yeah.
Growing into adulthood, becoming a wife, it's like I still carried that thought of like I'm not a sexual being, like sex is almost like sex is bad.
Sex is bad, yeah.
And that's really something that was hard for me to just kind of like get myself out of, because I still carried kind of like that shame from living in sin.
And that's a lot of, most of my clients are in that group of people who did it right and then get married, and now they feel like they still feel like they're doing something wrong. And that is because, you know, collectively as a kingdom, we don't read our Bibles, and we don't read it contextually. We don't understand, like we quote it, we repeat it,
Misquoted.
we misquote it, we repeat it, we put stuff in it that ain't in it. Like cleanliness is next to godliness, that's never in. Like, and all we say, the Bible says, the Bible definitely didn't say that. Your pastor said that, your grandmama said that.
Yeah.
And what it is that sex before marriage is sin.
Yeah.
The act itself is not. And in the same way, and I teach in my teachings, at least, I feel the same about masturbation. Masturbation for me does not serve God's purpose for a single person, but the act itself is not sin and can have the capacity to serve a good purpose within a marital union.
Yeah.
And so we want to, our minds, we are black and white thinkers. We don't do well in the gray. And so either I can or I can't. And so especially again for singles, is like I get the question all the time, like, what am I allowed to do? Can I do this? Can I do that? And we've moved away from what must I do to be saved to what can I do and still be saved. And so my thing is, if you are coming to me and asking me,
that's a clip right there. That's a clip.
But my thing is, if you coming to me and you're asking, am I allowed to do this? You already know that something's up with it. And I feel like, don't come to me. I'm not your guilt gatekeeper. Don't come to me seeking permission to do something that you've already been gut checked about. That the Holy Spirit that lives in you already told you not. So you're trying to sidestep. And what happens is, unfortunately, in this, dispensation of grace, people are shifting their values to match their behavior and not the other way around.
Oh man.
And that's single and married alike.
Yeah.
And it is because we do not, a lot of our issues would be corrected with just some education. Just some understanding of the circles of sexuality, understanding of anatomy. Go back to Vacation Bible School and read, Genesis, and really Genesis 2 as it relates to intimacy, because for me, that's the foundation of intimacy, right? Adam and God established intimacy as a construct all through Genesis 2. And then, at the 2:25, and they were naked and yet felt no shame. Then in 3, is when it all fell apart. And so if we look at what he used, the enemy is the one trick pony. What he used is confusion and manipulation. And that is what we're still battling today in our bedrooms, in our bodies. Did God really say that? And then and he only told you that because he don't want you to be like, and that's manipulation to convince you that God is withholding. And if he's a withholding God, he's not a good God. And if he's not good, then he's not God. And now the whole house then begins to crumble. And that is why our bedrooms are suffering. I say all the time that a sexually excellent marriage bed wages war against the enemy.
Amen.
Because when you're married and you're having sex, or sex in general is one of the most vulnerable. I feel like sex and worship are when you are the most vulnerable. And that is when he gets that. Why do you think we fall asleep when we read our Bibles? Why do you think when you're trying to pray, your mind is everywhere? Why do you think when you're on the altar, there's that one person you're battling, whether that scream that's coming from the back of the church, if that's authentic or not, because he wants to distract from those moments. When you're in a bedroom, why that spectatoring is what it's called, when you're kind of like outside of yourself, like, for women, we get it, for women, like, especially after, the post-baby, our bodies have been lived in by humans a couple of times. And now it's like, nothing is sitting where it used to be. So it's like, how that look, how it feel, do we feel like, if I done squeeze a little bit, do we feel that? It's still loose. Like, and so we're doing everything but in the moment, right? And be in the moment. And that's where all the other thoughts come in. Because then, you throwing it. And he didn't he ain't blinking how we used to blink. Oh, what's it like no more? Oh, who was you with? Like, it's just, And that's why the bed is where he attacks
Yeah.
first, because if the bedroom is not right, then I'm not
Yeah.
speaking to you kindly. I'm not
Yeah.
exercising the fruit of the spirit, because I wanted some last night. You ain't give me none.
That's
So now I'm
right.
throwing your food
Exactly.
at you like this.
Yeah.
I'm staying home. I'm staying awake later. You know, I'm
Yeah.
talking to the kids by not answering questions or fussing with you,
Right.
arguing
Yeah.
through the kids.
Right,
Like, you know what I'm saying?
indirectly, yeah.
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's why, and he
Yeah.
wins with it. He doesn't have to do
Mm.
much but plant the seed, and the
Yeah, that's-
fruit, the rotten fruit, it takes away, is zapping you one orgasm at a time. Just taking away. And it's like people think, oh, it's marriage is bigger than sex. Marriage is absolutely bigger than sex. But the culture of the sex in your marriage is indicative of the culture of your marriage.
Mm. Wow.
She's preaching. She is
Seriously.
preaching.
Oh
And-
my God.
And even like as an aside, even like you said, it really is a one-trick pony. Because even as I'm thinking about it, and like the idea of like withholding,
Yeah.
is like when he goes to Eve, and it's like, oh, God is holding back this thing, and yet on the other side of it is the Holy Spirit that's leading you into all truth.
Yeah.
So it's like everything that he said I was holding back from you, I was giving to you. You
Yep.
just had to wait.
Yep.
Ah,
And even
goodness gracious.
physically though, right? Like this is
Yeah.
how the sin pulls the wool over your eyes. He said, you do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
But he also said all this other stuff.
Every other tree.
This you,
Every
fam.
other tree.
Do you.
Right.
Have at it. I got like you this. And it's
Everything
just
else,
this one thing. So what sin
right.
does is elevate this one thing
Yeah.
that
Make
you
it look
can
better
do
than
to make it
everything
look better
Yeah.
than everything else. And
Yeah.
the
Goodness
second
gracious.
that you partake, everything falls
Yeah.
the crap. And that's exactly what happened. Like you literally could have lived your whole life in abundance, flourish. Like this one thing that he wasn't keeping from you, he was protecting you from.
Yeah.
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 Confusion, manipulation, like, you know,
Yeah.
gaslight,
Goodness
all the words,
gracious.
all the terms.
All of them. Yeah.
The raggedy Lord. Y'all want to talk?
Yeah,
Y'all,
right.
y'all love, I mean, because we love, you know, narcissist is the sexy word now. Y'all know,
Right.
y'all ain't never learned Lucifer
Right.
is the narcissist, okay? He got mad at heaven. He was like, watch this.
Right.
I took all the
I'm taking
people.
everybody.
Let's go. I'm taking my ball. You can have it.
Right. No, that's real. And I guess, like I said, for those who, like I said, I guess I don't know how many people of our people that watch, like I said, who are believers in Jesus. So you might not get a lot from this one, but I'm hoping that the people that's supposed to get something from this, because I think the word that you was sexcellent,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
sexually excellent, sexually excellent.
Come on. Sexcellent.
Yeah. Yes. And it's so. If we had to start at ground zero, what is like step one towards getting that sexcellent
That
marriage?
mindset.
But yeah, like to first get into that.
Yeah, so to curate, like I like to say, curate a
Mhm.
culture of sexual excellence is first and foremost, it's that 3-tier we talked about the other day. Empathy, which leads to intimacy, which leads to ecstasy. You
Mm.
have to first see your partner as human.
Mm.
First see your partner, and it's going to feel super safe, but first see your partner as the neighbor that you're supposed to love.
Mm.
Because that is where that's really the threshing floor, if you will, of the meat of your marriage,
Mhm.
is seeing your partner as a human.
Yeah.
And yes, you leave and cleave and you become one flesh, but it's the become. Like, it's not an instant thing when
Yeah.
you say I do. But
Yeah.
if y'all are working each other out, and growing and being sanctified.
Working each other out.
I mean,
Literally and
pun
figuratively.
intended. You know what I mean? Like being able to give each other the space and grace to grow,
Yeah.
physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things.
Mhm.
And then from there, the intimacy grows, because then you are where you can see, hear, value, and understand
Mhm.
your partner. From intimacy is where sensuality gets to be fostered. And that is, in eroticism, gets to be fostered. And that is more than just the P and the G. That is
Yeah.
like, how you
P and the
as how you talk to each other, how you
Yeah.
touch each other, recognizing that foreplay starts. Is the real foreplay is in between when the clothes go back on, so
Mm.
when you take them off the next time.
Mm.
A colleague of mine, Goody Howard, says that I learned that from her, and that's what intimacy. Intimacy
Yeah.
starts well before the clothes come off and
Right.
continues long after they're going on. And intimacy is, all of these, catchphrases, but intimacy is being completely naked, even when you fully dressed.
Yeah.
And that is
Mhm.
where people don't understand that that's where the desire is, like, grows, right? Y'all, y'all folk love the love languages, but
Right.
really, we don't have time to get into why I don't think the love languages are
Nah, I think you should mention it though, because I feel like a lot of people
Live by that book.
they
do.
live and die by it as if it's like
My love language
you
is
are this
quality
and it's
time.
nothing
That's
else.
it. And that is the
Right.
problem. That is the core reason, because we don't do well in the gray. We
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
can function in the black and white. So once you pick a love language, I have surmised that this is how I'm going to love you,
Yeah.
and this is all you're going to get. So if you want
Man.
other love languages, you got to tie, or
Yeah.
heaven forbid you grow and change
Right.
and become
Yeah.
a different, want more things. And we don't recognize that love languages are seasonal.
Mm.
Right? And love languages, and most times they hit how they hit when there is a void. So when I'm in school and I'm tired, yes, acts of service are
Right.
going to feel good because I have a paper due. I don't have time to fill up my gas tank, get the oil change,
Yeah.
bathe the kids.
Mhm.
When I'm out of school and I'm graduating, we haven't been touching each other in a while. So
Right.
now that, I can see straight, the
Right.
physical touch, of course, that's going to be, my love language. Or at one point, I just had kids and I'm breastfeeding, so I'm touched out. So no,
Right.
please,
Right,
touch me.
please.
Right, you know what I mean? And so,
Right.
or we are empty nesters now. So of course, quality time is going to, because I'm losing myself listening to my own self talk. I need some
Yeah.
other kind of, conversation. Like people whose love language was quality time probably wasn't quality time during the pandemic. We quarantined.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Too
And so,
quality.
right, exactly. And so is being able to navigate those things. So my issue in all is like, you don't have to throw the whole love language thing in the, trash in the context of believers. I know there are a lot of people who have the issue that, it was only created in the cis heterosexual context and, Okay, I don't. That's not where the lane that I go down. Like I get it and I understand it, but that's
Yeah.
not where. That's not my piece of the vineyard.
Like that
Yeah,
bag
that's
somewhere
not. Yeah,
else.
that's not
Yeah.
my
Right.
piece of the vineyard.
Yeah.
But what I do feel like is that we, again, because we don't do gray well, it is too prescriptive.
Yeah.
And it's not a description of how to love somebody. Because when you think about it, quality time, acts of service, touch,
Words of
gifts,
affirmation,
and
all
words
that
of
stuff.
affirmation,
Right.
that is how you put together. That is being loved well.
All of
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Like, yes, spend time with me, but also buy my lubes. I wear 42. Like, fill my gas tank up because I like to go to Jersey and
Where you don't have to touch
You
it
gotta
up.
come in.
So do
Right.
that,
Yeah.
but also tell me I'm cute.
Right.
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 Pop that thing when I walk
Right.
past. Like, why would you only pick one? Why do I only
Right.
have one?
Yeah.
Right.
Evangelist Cardi said, I don't have to choose.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's like but we're so scared to fail that like I
Yeah.
gotta do this. And we also do love languages wrong. We think that our love language is how we love other people. Like, oh, I'm a gift giver. That's my love language.
Right.
No,
Right.
that's not how it works. So not only do y'all obsessed with it, y'all do it wrong.
Yeah.
Y'all do it
Wow.
wrong. And you convince yourself that, this is an aside, but you convince yourself that because your love language is physical touch that you're more sexual, which is also not true.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the
Wow.
foundation. Intimacy, empathy, is dealing with your partner as a human, understanding that Adam and Eve were neighbors first before they were husband
Yeah.
and wife.
Right.
Dealing with each other, that agape love first.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can get to the, the more familial, intimate spaces. And then the ecstasy comes. Like, it hit different when you actually like your partner.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. It hits different when you actually know your partner, spend
Yeah.
time with your partner. And that's why I've been switching my language from being a good lover to being a wise lover.
Yeah.
And where wisdom is, we can go I can give you a number of scripture all through Bible about
Yeah.
what the beauty of wisdom.
Yeah.
Over everything else. And so that also goes hand in hand with knowing yourself, because wisdom is knowledge applied. So if you learn your body, you know what works for you, or at the very least, what doesn't work for you,
Right.
give that information to your partner.
Communicate
And then a wise lover will apply that.
Yeah.
So husbands, when you're dealing with your wife according to knowledge, that means you should understand how the vulva works.
Mm.
Oh, can we?
Why don't we jump into that
Let's-
since
let's
we have
introduce
these
the
friends
friends.
here?
Twin.
Nobody knows me like you.
That's what Peter and
Yes.
So this is
my best friend. This is Veronica the Vulva. Say hi. Hey, y'all.
hey girl.
Yes, this is Veronica the vulva. She is a anatomically correct vulva puppet. I use her. I take her with me everywhere. Sometimes she get flued out by they want her
Flued
and
out?
not me to come. Like I literally have people submit my speaking form. Like, is Veronica available to come? Like, I mean, go best friend. That's right. Oh, best friend. That's my best friend. But you better. So I take her with me to teach about pleasure, anatomy, and all that. And she's a puppet, so she's more that way. She's a conversation starter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so I use that, but also to help people kind of like not be so like anxious or upset or off put by vulva, understanding vagina, and like simple stuff like mixing the words up between vulva and vagina.
Yeah.
And so many of us walk around with a vulva every single day and don't know the words apart. So many people walk around wanting to be inside a vagina and have parts of, and put your mouth all on vulvas every day,
Right.
but you don't know how it works. And so that's what she's for. So she has all the parts. She has the clitoral hood. She has the glans clitoris, which is only just a part of the clitoris. This is not the entire clitoris. She has the inner labia, the outer labia. She has the urethra, which is where we urinate from.
Mm-hmm.
This red part is actually the only part that's the vagina. That's the internal part where babies come out of, penises go in, toys if that's your jam, fingers if they're clean, and then the G spot, which with the little ridged area about a thumb's lift in and up inside the vaginal canal. And what we've learned over the years is, though it's called the G spot, what actually happens and why it's so stimulating for many women is that it actually stimulates the entire clitoris. And this is Clara. Clara the clitoris, and she is actually an anatomically correctly shaped clitoris. So this part here, the glans clitoris, as I mentioned, is the part that sits under the hood. For some people sit under the hood. Some people is loud, ta-da, watch out now. It's the little one, and I'm not loud. Okay, some people's are out, large, and in charge. You know what I mean? And then the roots, go down on either side of the labia, and then the bulbs are, inside the body.
Yeah.
So when you're stimulating the G spot, you're actually stimulating the roots of the clitoris, which is why it's so like, sensitive. Squirting and things like that are more likely to happen because you're stimulating the entire. So when men get in there like DJ Clue, the front piece, you're really, I mean, it works, it's helpful, but it's not really. It's only the tip, if you will, of the iceberg. Right. So
yeah. Okay.
Dang.
Thank you for the sex education.
I'm about to say, but that because I feel like, I'm glad you brought it up, because I feel like it ties into something that you had talked about, where it's like people kind of like not knowing themselves, and it goes to the point where you said it was like people, like your sexual experience only applies to like everybody
the people you've
else.
had before, your sexual resume.
Only sexual resume, like it don't have nothing to do with what you're walking into, who you with now.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people would take the resume and be like, well, this qualifies me to be a wise lover. Mm-hmm. Or even, like I said, a good lover.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what might have been good for 700 other people, hopefully not that much. But like, safely.
But we don't judge.
We don't judge.
But redemption is available.
Whatever I'm about to say. Shut up.
Come to the end of yourself. First. What can separate us from the love of Jesus? Not death nor life.
Or 700.
Or 700.
So, but it's like, even if it worked for all of those people, like, that ain't a guaranteed recipe for like who the next person is, or who your spouse is, assuming that
part.
Yeah.
That part.
So, and that's like, that's part of the things I think that a lot of us, and I feel like it mostly falls on men, who kind of had that mindset of like, man, or I guess everyone could, but I feel like you see it more in men who be like, oh, no, I did XYZ third. And it's like
pride.
Yeah.
Pride and in a dash of fear too. Oh, yeah. Because if I allow you the opportunity to want different, then that's requires something of me that I'm going to have to grow.
Yeah.
And it's easier for me to, I'm in my box. This is where I am right
Yeah.
here. This is where I live.
Right.
Right. And so then what happens is you begin to disparage the other person that they're doing something wrong. And I
Yeah.
hear a lot of men say, oh, it shouldn't take all that. I never had to,
Yeah.
you know, they come
Mhm.
ready. I ain't had to do the spit start. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
See, y'all done made me feel too comfortable. I done got loose.
Hey,
You know, it doesn't take all of that. But
Yeah.
the reality of, but again, that's the lack of knowledge. Men,
Yeah.
I mean, women, excuse me, in the female sexual response cycle, we're about 10 to 15 minutes behind men in arousal. You know, some of the men who, if you are more spontaneous desire, which most men, just from the appendage of it all, are spontaneous desire, which means you can blink and wink at you,
And
and
there you go. Right.
you're ready to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? But women tend to be
Take some
more responsive desire. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you gotta keep that. And just like a friend of mine, sexologist Myra, says, you wouldn't put a frozen pizza in a cold oven. That you
Right.
want to heat it up first.
Right.
And so, and people are frustrated with it shouldn't take all that, shouldn't take that long. But what you're doing is really hindering yourself, because if you take the time to warm it up, then it will be done right.
Right.
Like we've put food in the oven and let it preheat while it's cooking. We put the
It's gonna be
journal
cold in
in
the middle.
It'd be cold in the
Yeah.
middle, or it'd be done, but then like the cheese is not melted all the way. You can still see the individual pieces.
And you gotta put it back in.
And you got exactly, and then
Right.
you're frustrated. And when you think about it as sex, if you don't take the time to do the pre-play, then you're really harming yourself. But also understanding that could also be fun, even if it comes down to consent. You just gotta if you let creativity just state it, like, you know what I mean. Like, don't put it on other people. Like, that's part of the fun. And then a delayed penetration makes the sliding. Jesus.
Yo. We keeping it real. We keeping it
My
real.
lamb.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. I am so comfortable right now. Makes the initial
Slide
entrance.
in.
Okay.
We're gonna stick with slide in.
Makes it that much better.
Slip and slide records.
That much
Let's
better.
go.
And it's self-control. And this is why I
Yeah.
think, like, if you struggle, there are certain things that you struggle with single that's not going to change when you get married.
Yeah.
We're just going to call it something else.
Mm.
If you struggle with fornication when you're married, you still going to struggle when you're single, you still going to struggle when you get married. It's just going to be called the A word now.
Yeah.
It's just called the definition change, the baby. So you have to exercise your self-control, but also stewardship. Like, steward your desire better. Like, you have to be able to, like, if you like scratching and clawing, like, because you can't get it. There's one thing if he or she just looking like they just that good, like, I need that. Like, and we know they're like, man, I'm not trying to hear that. Like,
Right.
Ben,
Bend it over, bend it over, bend it over, bend it
over. Okay.
First of all, that's my song.
Okay.
The remix, though. The remix.
Right. So we have those days.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And then we also have those days where we're just not in the mood, and you just, to the side, like, have thine own way. Like, we know what I'm saying? Like, we know that happens, but because we're not going to pretend like we don't have those moments where I'm just not in the mood, but I'm not, I'm not against it, but I can't participate.
Ain't quick,
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm
but
done.
the culture, though, right?
Right.
Like, there are outliers. That should
Yeah.
not be the core. That should not be the
Yeah,
culture. And so
yeah.
you should want, because why are you in a rush?
Yeah.
Like, you want it to
Yeah.
be over? Like,
Yeah.
take your time.
Yeah.
And, I just be so much better. That's why I said education
Right.
for so many of us will really, like, ease a lot of the
Right.
stressors that we are.
Now, sometimes you don't have the time, though,
Yeah.
depending on your situation.
But
I know
again, that's where
You
it
gotta
comes,
make the
like,
time.
But the thing is that's where the intimacy and the sensuality and eroticism as a cultural staple comes into play. Because if you already warming me up just by the way you talk to me,
Right.
just by the way you tell me how you can't wait for it. Like, if you are a couple who needs to schedule sex, which I
Yeah.
highly recommend.
Yeah.
We've been talking that talk all day.
Right.
Like, you at work and I'm
Right.
and,
Yeah.
And that's the
I'm-
intimacy piece.
That's
the,
we're doing
Okay.
the thing so that when it's his and bed, even if it's a night where the kids, kids are haters, and when they like
True.
now all of a sudden you got a headache and
Right.
my
Yeah.
binky and all those things, like now all of a sudden, like, it doesn't necessarily have to take away from. And if we were talking to talk all night and something happens And this one, like, we're like, I just can't. We
Yeah.
just hold each other.
Mhm.
That all it is that you have those moments where it flops. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
flop.
Yeah.
And you had those moments where you've been talking heavy.
Yeah.
And then, little fizz, that thing fizzle right on out. And you're like, I know what I said, but I ain't got it. But that should not be such a shock
Yeah.
to the system, because you have created a culture where if I say no today, or if I'm not in the mood today, it's a reason. And I move with the amount of sexual integrity that when I say tomorrow, you understand that really it's actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you love me so well that you recognize that even before I have to say no, that you're like, I see what you're going through. I understand that I did not contribute to reading the 4th book that baby girl wanted to read. And so, you know what? I'm just going to hold you tonight, and that's okay. And all that is stoking the fire even, even more. So then when we do come together, that's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah. No.
Right.
Y'all used to play Donkey Kong, that Banjo Kazooie. And like, who do I got? Yes, like we out there, like like, you know what I mean? And it should be that lighthearted, fun excitement, and and that goes back. It's cyclical, because now in a moment where, like, I know what I said, I know what we planned on, but then my humanity, the honoring of my humanity comes in, and then the love that I have for one another, for you, that I don't want you to go beyond your capacity. That's the intimacy, because I see you, hear you, value, and understand you. And I thank you for seeing me, hearing me, value, understanding me. I'm stretching later because you really gonna get all of it. All of it.
That's so real though. And
that's good.
And I would say I think it like you saying it, where it's like it actually has to be like a culture. Like, it has to be a staple in a marriage, and it has to be created by the two of you, and not like I'm gonna take some things from here, from here. It's like, nah, even if both of y'all are coming in like having experienced sex with other people, and even if it's each other that you've experienced having sex with before you were married, because I know that was one of the things that was hard for me to like reconcile, was like when we were dating, it was like, oh,
it was easier.
Yeah, I was saying, we just
right,
and we ain't live together, so it's like, oh, like I'm spending the night, it's like where we at with on this one, versus where it's like, oh dang, now we live together, and in my mind I'm like, oh, this happened every time I stayed the night. Well, I'm staying the night every night now, so why is 1 and 1 not equaling 2?
Right.
I guess not like really understanding where it's like, all right, you get married, where it's like, you gotta build this thing from ground zero, not bringing in things like I said. Even if it was us two before, I think it goes into that word.
But it's also the different season that we're in. That's what she mentioned too. It's like you can't have that same mindset and think that we're like the same people, that our bodies react the same way, and especially when once you're married and then you have real jobs and stress, and it's like the whole environment changes. So it's not going to be the same. You can't.
No, I agree, but that's what I'm like. I just think back to, like I said, especially for us, where it was like the difficulty when it's like, all right, we both stressed out, and for you it's like stress. I need to be like left alone. Give me a minute. Like I just gotta like go sit somewhere and just stare out the window. And for me, I'll be like, oh, I'm stressed. I need to have sex. Like and again, I think a big part of it was, again, us not starting from like that ground zero spot of like, let's build it up together. So that these are things we both agree on. And it brings in the wisdom part of like, like it might be a day was like, all right, he's stressed. I know I can help you out today. Like the wisdom part of it, like bringing that into play. But I think it's so tough. And I hate that like the church doesn't have these conversations. And
that is the truth.
Because I think a lot of it, like growing up, like said, you learn, and it's like most of it is just like they said, don't do it. Wait till then. And even like the people that was like, I remember this was the most terrible advice ever. But I remember like the only like like kind of like old head to young person conversation, and then I don't know why it didn't hit me that I'm like, yo, that niggas ain't thinking right. But it was like, because I remember I was like, he's like, oh, I know you're in college, whatever you're doing. He's like, oh, use a condom, but if you don't, he's like, just go to the bathroom and pee.
What?
Oh,
He's
What
like,
kind of?
he was like, just go to the bathroom in peace. So that way the pee is pushing out anything that try to get up in you.
Stop.
wow.
And I remember, like, in my 18-year-old mind, I was like, all right, well, physically, if it's trying to get up in me and I'm
Pee
peeing
is
it out,
gonna get it up.
maybe that does work.
This is why.
But it's like, and again, you think into it, and I'm like, why is that the only conversation
Right.
that anybody had? Like,
Right.
why don't we talk about it more?
Yeah.
And especially from a leadership standpoint, because like I said, you would think that the leaders would know the biblical sense of it more than just the people in the pews. How do you think we got to that point where it's like, where everybody is like almost operating in the dark?
I mean, we live in a fallen world. And so that, like, the wool over our eyes is like, we live in that constant state. And it's just some people get, the revelation at different places. And I also think that we reserve grace for others, for the things that we also struggle with. And so because that varies from one person to the next, and there's also a disregard for just like sexuality as a science.
Yeah.
I think that's like, people don't understand, like, leaders and all that, because they don't respect it as an actual discipline. They only see it as, one of that's the 11th commandment.
Yeah.
Right? Or like, thou shalt. And so we don't need to talk about it. And then when you get married, you'll just figure it out. Like, there's no, and that's a part of the disrespect. The disrespected piece is that we don't think that is anything that we need to disciple people around. It's just we can demonize them about it. But you can't demonize people for something you refuse to disciple them.
Wow.
Ooh. That's
the truth.
Yep. And because these churches surely will sit you down.
You
come up pregnant before you marry, and that's another thing that annoyed them.
And that's why, and I think it's also a reason why we still find, unfortunately, have leaders, like good leaders, who are getting caught up in scandals and all those things, because there's still this silence around the topic, in the kingdom at large. And as social media is growing and things like that, this is still fairly new, right? And we feel like social media makes the world smaller, but the reality of it is there still have some very traditional, like, things or thought process that has become traditionalism, and any type of ism is what's causing a lot of trouble. So people are moving in fear, and we pedestal leaders as make them kind of mini gods that can't do any wrong, which is problematic. So we're not having the right conversation. So now church is not, in a larger scale, it's not, but we're coming to a place where more people are talking about sex as it relates to church.
Right.
But the wrong people have the mic. And that's the problem.
That's
so
the problem.
Yes, we went from not talking about it at all to now we're talking about it, but in a more salacious, kind of clickbaity kind of way. And then these people who, they know some things but don't know everything. But because we expect them to know everything, they're writing books about things they know nothing about. And it's giving honorary doctorate, and it really is upsetting me and my homegirls, because as someone who is an actual professional, like, I actually went to school for this, and like, some things are intuitive as it relates to theology, but some they be tap dancing into like the real science of the matter, and you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I heard a pastor, I'm not going to say who it was, who I liked, like I genuinely liked. But they spoke at a conference at a popular, like, kind of millennial Christian conference, and they were talking about the experience with Tamar, and I'm blanking on the man's name, her brother.
Oh, the brother raper. Yeah.
And he was talking about how, he couldn't get enough of her, and like was all over her, blah blah blah. And then once she had sex with him, then he was ready. Like, once he got that, got it out of him, he ain't want nothing to do with her. And then now she was chasing after him and all of that. And I'm like, bruh, first of all, he raped her. Let's call it spade a spade. And second of all, she wasn't thirsty after him afterwards. She knew that what it would mean for her to be single and having slept with somebody who wasn't her husband. And she was begging him to not put her out there like that.
So essentially, don't shame me. Like,
don't do this shame for me. And like, so that's the thing. And like, even people who are only recently beginning to really just name that David raped Bathsheba. Like, we don't like to call things things in
Mhm.
the kingdom, which goes also back to your question about why is it like that, because we don't like to call things things, and
Yeah.
that's a trouble.
Yeah, that's tough.
I was
That's-
so mad. Like, I was like, this is, and I really,
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed him, and I was like, oh, you're a dummy too.
Yeah,
Okay.
nah, and that's
Sheesh.
that's kind of thing. Like, it's a shame because like, and one of my big things now is like, please read the Bible for yourself, like
Please.
in totality. Like,
Get
the
you a
whole
little
get the
concordance.
whole thing.
Get a little concordance or something,
Yeah,
please.
because I'm like, man, like you said, it's like she, and even with that, I feel like it'd be very easy to like twist that and be like, oh, well, after it was like it's post nut clarity almost, and it's like
That's
no,
what. That's what
Wow.
literally what.
That
What
meant,
in the
like-
Christianese, that's literally what he said.
it's like he sinned and knew he sinned, and then that's why he was like, ugh, get away from me. I'm like, come on,
because
y'all.
the thing that, and he meant nothing but ill towards her. He wanted what he wanted. He never ever cared about her at all,
Yeah.
and her only begging was because he got his rocks off,
Yeah.
and she is going to carry the burden of
Yeah.
all that. Nobody's going to look at him crazy for what he did.
Yeah.
Until you
except
know.
for brother.
I was about to say. I mean, you know,
I respect it.
street justice.
I was about to say, nah,
street
like,
justice, like, you got that.
That's why I
But
be-
you got what you bought that.
I be enjoyed it, especially reading the Bible. It's like a couple people where it'd be like, oh, they sisters got raped. They'd be like, oh, you live today, and them niggas go back.
Okay.
They be going back
Oh.
killing everybody. I'm
Oh,
like,
the Bible
mm.
mad dope. Like, the Bible got
I
some
was like,
stuff.
yeah.
Man, Genesis,
Yeah.
what? I was listening to it on Audible. I was like, what? Girl, oh my God. Like, it's big. Y'all
Man.
get me right riled up because Hagar would have had to see me. And like, Sarah, you drew, like, you should have just waited. But also,
Right.
yes, I made a mistake. But also, shorty, grab your stuff for me.
Get up out of
Yeah, you gotta go. I said
Yeah.
that Abraham was like, oh my God, like,
Like, you did this.
man.
Man. Oh,
Oh, the
Ricky trying to
cards.
start stuff.
And he trying to get it.
Ricky trying to start stuff.
First of all, this wasn't for us to do.
It wasn't. Oh,
It
No.
wasn't, but
We-
I
we-
mean,
we could
let's
do
take a
that.
look.
let's just do it.
Let's have a little fun. Let's have a little fun.
Undefiled. We're going. There's
Hold
also
on.
Can we get a close up, Ricky?
there's
on the cards,
also
please?
there's two versions. There's discussion, sex talk that doesn't have to lead to the bedroom. It was created for single people to begin to have conversations about sex and their sexual expectations in a healthy way prior to the altar, but it also works for couples who kind of want to build like their culture kind of foundation, empathy, intimacy type of conversation. And then there's Daring Discussions Undefiled, sex talk that will bless your bedroom.
Ooh. Okay. All right now.
Hey, so we're going to just so you can see how it works, we're going to pick a card, any card. Don't let me see it.
Go ahead.
Oh my God. Okay. Look at it. I'm gonna go with this one.
This one right here.
I was trying to give you one, but
You were trying to give me one?
All right, can I look at it?
You sure?
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
I might have to ask for another one.
It says, "What is your favorite foreplay activity?" Good Lord. Okay.
I know mine.
You know yours?
Yeah,
Favorite foreplay activity?
mine is favors.
Favors.
We'll keep that as favors. You know what I'm
They
talking
speak in
about.
the code.
Okay.
Like, can you pass me the juice?
Okay.
Hand me that remote, please.
Yours is favors. I would say mine's is not, I guess, technically kind of like dry humping.
You said dry humping?
Yeah. Just a
Little
little,
hunching.
without the penetration. Not yet.
Like the foot.
Yeah.
Mom, you better not be watching. That's all I gotta say.
All right,
Anybody?
Turn the channel.
Oh Lord.
Hold on.
Ricky,
Well, you ain't.
No.
I say you need to pull one of these cards.
Okay. If we could only do one
Oh,
sexual
Lord.
act or position for the rest of our lives,
Let's get high in here.
which would it be and why?
One sexual act.
I ain't gonna lie. I feel like missionary's underrated.
Underrated?
Yeah, I'll be
think
cool.
so?
I'll be cool with it because it's intimate and
Yeah.
the slipping be sliding. So
Okay.
Well, amen.
We doing too much.
we gave the warning.
Did we?
We said
Yeah.
parents and everybody.
I'm gonna have to
train
put
well.
like a pre-warning before the episode
Yeah.
starts. Like warning before.
18
If-
and
No,
older.
right.
If you see Crystal or Steph in any capacity that were father, son, aunt, uncle, if you love them, don't watch this
Do not
episode.
Right. Don't watch this episode. Don't watch this episode. Let's do one more.
Okay.
Oh, you sure enough
One
didn't
more
answer.
piece.
You sure enough did not answer.
Oh, you.
I'm gonna do the next card.
No, you have
We
to
both
answer this.
All right. I would say, being on top.
Okay. That's not a surprise.
You know, I'm trying to lose some weight. I need to.
You're
It'll help me
idiot.
be active.
You're an idiot.
All right, last one.
No, you're like,
You know.
yeah. I started.
All right, we're gonna go with this
I
one.
don't know what that would say.
Think of the best sexual encounter we've ever had. What made it so great?
The best
The
sexual.
best?
Oh no.
We've been together for a long time.
Yeah.
But okay. So the one that immediately comes to my mind, I don't know if it's necessarily the best, but I would say the most meaningful to me
hmm
would be it was after we had an argument.
hmm
And- no, we had an argument and I kept acting like nothing was bothering me. Like the next day, well, you hurt my feelings. And the next day I was acting like, oh no, nothing's wrong. Cause I have this thing where if somebody hurts my feelings, like I shut down. So
Oh, this was like 3 weeks ago.
this is like 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So yeah, it was pretty recent. But after I told you how I felt like this full release I felt more connected. But then we had sex after that, and that really made me feel connected because it was like we both like hashed out our feelings about this particular topic.
Because the funny thing is, now I'm thinking about it, and I'll agree with you on that one. Because we had sex before,
Yeah,
and then we had the conversation.
yeah. That's what made me feel like okay. I
And
think
then
I can.
after
I
we
can
had the
tell you how I really
conversation,
feel right now because I was mad.
We
I
had
was holding it in.
I was say ran it
Yeah.
back, and then it was like, because I remember I was like even shocked. I'm like, I don't think I was like, wait a minute, like I feel closer to you.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
like, I
probably
think
the
we
most
gotta-
difficult- right. So
Let's go hurry up and get back at it.
yeah, that was like
I
a
do- that
level
was a
up
good one.
on our communication. I was like,
That was a
we
good
hit a
one.
milestone there, and that made it feel more meaningful.
All right, this was this say. Ooh, this is good. What non-sexual act do I do that turned
This
you
should have been
on?
the first card we got. Was this the one you're trying to get?
No. It was about role playing, the one I was trying to give you.
Oh, what?
What
Right.
Right.
what non-sexual act do I do that turns you on? Oh, this is a question.
Yeah.
Too. That you do.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate when we just like watch shows together, or when you watch my shows with me.
Okay.
That I appreciate, especially my true crime.
And it turns you
and
on.
that turns you on.
Well,
I was about
yeah,
to
'cause
say.
question.
That's
Oh,
the-
right. That turns you on. Never mind.
I was about to say.
It doesn't turn me on.
Put on snap.
Murder-
This is
murder?
something that I really. It's just
Snap
something that I really
marathon.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah, right,
turns me
yeah.
on. Well, honestly, I guess if you just like hold me, because I feel like
Sometimes I feel like in my mind, because you always just you like a rabbit. You just have sex. So I feel like anytime you touch me in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's not he just wants to try to initiate something. So if it's a touch where it's not leading to anything, then that actually turns me on because I'm like, okay.
Noted.
Okay.
Not a rabbit. A rabbit is crazy. Goodness gracious. Now, don't judge me, world. Goodness gracious.
Judgment free.
Non-sexual act that turned I guess mine is similar. Where it's like if like, and granted, I feel like our couch is not set up great to like just like sit next to each other and like just do stuff.
Just chill.
But like when we get into like doing stuff like that, or like when we just chilling, or in fact, one of the things is like when you be doing like you're like I guess you be needing hugs or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
but like you like give you like a hug and then just like hold it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's get active. All right.
Oh, let's get active.
But that's
Right.
but it's like those joints where it'd be like, oh dang, like all right, cool. We just I feel like they often happen on like Saturdays.
Because that's when
Because
we
like
have
it'd be like
nothing
making
to do.
like
Right.
making breakfast,
Just
and then I come
chilling.
down and be like, oh, it's just hug, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I enjoy this.
Yeah. Well,
Dang.
this is a good deck.
I was about to say, yeah. So we all learned something. And as someone, we have both.
We have one, so I have to get the intimacy one.
I thought
But
we
we
had
do
the
have this
intimacy.
one. No, we have undefiled.
Oh
Yeah, but go get it.
no, yeah. I was about to say having
Where can people get it?
www.theintimacyfirm.com/shop, or just go to theintimacyfirm.com and click on shop, and it'll take you right there.
All right.
yeah, and like I said, having been to the workshops, we have the cards. It's like I can attest that like this stuff actually like works, and because I think, and again, it goes back to like you said, like knowing what you're talking about and doing the research and studying, where it's like it's being presented in a way, and I guarantee you that it's probably something that like you didn't think of. Like
Yeah.
you're being presented with things in a way and sex in a way that probably you've never thought of it or experienced it.
Right.
And I think once you take it like from that space of just like the limited knowledge that we 9 times out of 10 have, but to a place where it's like, oh dang, like now, like you said, bringing wisdom into sex,
Yeah.
like that's a whole different.
And it helps to take the shame out of it. So like I did your seminar that you had a couple months ago, and I forget what it was called, but it was like
Talk your talk. The
Talk
art of
your-
erotic communication.
yes, the art of erotic communication. Yes, but it was really good for me. And actually, one of my girlfriends, we both went, and we were talking. It's like the culture that we grew up in, and well, I come from a Caribbean family. Like my mom, she's from Jamaica. I don't want to put her out there, so I'm not gonna say where she's from. People gonna know who I'm talking about, but it's a African. It's basically the culture though. It's like sex is not talked about. It's like you kind of just grow up, and I guess parents assume like, oh, maybe they're maybe they're doing it, maybe they're not, but it's not talked about. So you don't really have the knowledge. You don't have the confidence for like when you're married, how to just like understand yourself sexually, to acknowledge like I have these wants and needs and not feel like any shame about it, feeling like there's no shame in that you should feel like pleasure. Like I don't know, it just like makes me cringe, and that's just because of the way that I was raised, and my girlfriend was like saying the same thing. So it's like these cards kind of help you to have that conversation. That seminar that you had really helped me a lot because it helped me want to be able to communicate things better with him. And to acknowledge like his needs and how, the way that I may say things or act may come off to him and can be off-putting. So it really helped me to just gain a different perspective overall about sex. So it's really important. So I hope you have another seminar. But
they not.
What?
I'm sure they will continue to happen.
What, the
The
seminars?
seminars, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Well,
amen.
eventually, hopefully.
He
But
said, oh, I guess I
yeah.
have to. Now.
But you're doing the
Yeah,
Lord's
no.
work. Like seriously.
Seriously.
You're such a blessing. So
And I think if we're not mistaken, you are about to get a PhD.
Correct.
yes.
Oh, yeah, we celebrate education on this
All
podcast.
right.
I'm working on it. Y'all.
Right.
Pray my strength, child.
Yes. I was about to say, can you? Because I felt like it was like some next level.
Okay.
Can you say what your?
Yes, I am
Yes.
studying the sexual scripts of Black Pentecostal millennials and assessing or researching whether their behaviors align with sexual expression in Scripture.
That is like so deep.
That's what I'm like,
Right.
because it's just I'm like it's decent, just because I know that like that's something that people are going to learn from, and like they're actually going to. It's actually going to help people like do sex better, do sex the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the mindset of like getting like the right way ain't like just because you had an orgasm, like the right way as like undefiled that way, like, and that's what I hope that we all are like striving for. And I know that it's tough. Even like one of our recent episodes, we were talking about like singleness and kind of like how do you even curb those things. Like, why are you single? And like trying to prepare, and like I'm like, this is good.
Yeah.
I'm glad people actually get to like watch this, and I'm very glad that you came through for us, because I was like, this
Thank
is
you.
Of
so
yeah,
much.
and this is
Thank you.
again, I feel like this is one of them episodes where it's like, yeah, we got one with this one. Like it's one of those like
Oh, amen.
it's
Amen.
it's one of those. So before we leave, we ask all of our guests, what is the bright side of cause, and not just sex, because we know what the bright side of that is.
Hey.
But the
Do it, Lord.
right.
Please.
But I would say the bright side of being a wise lover and getting the knowledge to do sex of a sexcellent marriage bed.
So for me, a sexually excellent marriage bed, as I said, wages war against the enemy. And so for your marriage, if you are to, and you believe that it is your first ministry,
Mm.
and it does, so doing the work to have a culture of sexual excellence does not cheapen your marriage, does not make your marriage all about sex. It fortifies it. Because as I said, the culture of your bedroom represents the culture of your marriage. So if you all are kind and patient and tender and long suffering and gentle and all of those things, all of that will show up in the bedroom, very orgasmic. And people, and orgasmic experiences have mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual implications. So
Yeah.
it's heart health.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual health. Y'all are fortified. Y'all are
Yeah.
fighting together, arm in arm, and anything that comes your way
Yeah.
won't have that crack to get in. Nobody, other people
Right.
won't have that crack to get in. Children won't, come at odds between you all, and you'll be able to live in a way that is, you are the human, you are the couple, and you are the sexual partner. And in a way that all of that is integrated and they become hats that you willingly interchange, and not these fractured sense of like costumes that you have to pretend from moment to moment. You get to just be without performing. And that sexually excellent marriage, and the effort and the energy that you put in there, in the way that you talk to each other, in the way that you pray for one another, in the way that you regard one another, in the way that you're honest about your likes and your dislikes and your wants. You not pretending, not faking orgasms, not letting him keep putting his tongue in your ear when you know that you hate it. Like all of those things, that's what sexual freedom is. It's not, busting it wide and doing absolutely whatever. And you're not in bondage because you don't like anal. Your free sexual freedom is, you've assessed what works for me and my body, and what works for my partner, and what works for our home. And you're not trying to recreate what you've seen or heard elsewhere. You are your own relationship goals. That's what the culture of sexual excellence is, and that's what the benefit is of it all in one, because you are waging war against the enemy, and you are building the foundation of your household that is built to stand as.
Jeez.
Amen to that.
I don't even want to say nothing else like that.
I mean, right?
Cut the camera. Goodness gracious. No, that was seriously, ladies and gentlemen. Look her up on Instagram.
Oh, the intimacy. I don't even think we said
intimacy
it
firm.
at all. The intimacy
I'm about to say,
firm
yeah,
is your business.
Can we plug that real quick? Because
Yes.
I definitely want everybody like coming
Yeah,
straight
absolutely.
to.
First of all, she has 1 million. People already know who she is, but for those
For
very
those who
few who may not, who've been living under a rock.
Yes. I am Brittany Broaddus-Smith, founder of the Intimacy Firm. The Intimacy Firm is a Christian sexuality, intimacy coaching and sexuality education agency where we work to bridge the gap between the science and scripture of human sexuality, helping those people who journey to do it right but still feel like they're doing it wrong. So you can find me at the Intimacy Firm on everything. More of my educational fun stuff is on Instagram. Me just being me is on TikTok. If you want to kind of join my program, get coaching by me, come, bring me out to speak or whatever, that's at www.theintimacyfirm.com. My monthly Bible study, Naked and Unashamed, where we go verse by verse, seeking God's heart for sex, intimacy, and relationships. You either can join live first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or you can catch the replay on YouTube with the Intimacy Firm.
And the coaching is, you could do like one-on-ones.
One-on-one men, women, or couples. I do.
Nice.
Yes. please,
Awesome.
I'm about to say, we are but a lowly podcast, but please, the people we got, please go check it out.
Yes.
And that's Brittany Broaddus-Smith, everyone.
Idiot.
Thank you very much for coming. Like again, we said it in the beginning, but it's like we genuinely appreciate that you will honor us with your time and your gift. Truly, thank you for that.
Because you be booked and busy.
Right, factual.
Thank you.
I be
tired.
But
Yeah.
of course, we was gonna make it happen for y'all. Of course, I love
Nah,
you.
I
Thank you.
greatly appreciate it. Thank y'all for tuning in. We are grateful for just everyone. Again, continue to come by and just chill out for us a little bit, and hopefully you take something with you every time that we come in front of this camera. And again, as always, if you want to reach us on Instagram, it's at the Brightside Show 23. Any questions or concerns of any type, even if, like I said, for us, even if it's for guests, we're Brightside Show 23 at gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you, and we will see y'all next time. Peace.